What did you make overall of the House of Lords and their decision yesterday?
I don't think it's going to come as a surprise. I think it was the right decision. I think we need some, they weren't saying, I personally obviously disagree with the Rwanda policy, but they weren't saying that they're stopping it. They're saying that they want to ensure that those measures the government have said need to be in place for it to be safe, those measures the Supreme Court said needed to be in place for it to be safe, are embedded before anyone's sent out there. So before the treaty is ratified. So it's rather than just on paper saying this is a safe country, there's actually the evidence to back it up and say, look, we've ensured that the processes are there. Because what we're seeing at the moment, Rwanda accepted 113 asylum applications over the last 5 years. So let's make sure the system works. If we're going to go, I don't think we should go down that route, but the system's got to work. Otherwise, you look at 7,500 years just to clear the existing backlog here if we're going to do that.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of years, really, to try and clear a backlog. That doesn't sit well, I think, with anybody. I can't work this out. I really can't, because I speak to somebody like yourself, and I speak to members of Parliament, Labour MPs, even Tory MPs will say, no, Rwanda is not a safe place. It's not a safe place. Even the Home Office conceded it wasn't a safe place. If you look online, it'll take you about half a second to find that the government itself had talked about big question marks over the safety of Rwanda. And then I talked to somebody else who says, no, that was back in the day. It's a different thing now. You can go there. Look, there's holiday ads for Rwanda. Lots of people go to Rwanda. People work in Rwanda. Expats go to Rwanda. It's a completely safe place. What's the truth?
It's a mix of both, because it depends where you go in the country. That's the thing. There are areas which are safe. They tend to be the more expensive areas. It's the areas where expats tend to be as well. And then there's areas where they aren't safe. And that's where we're seeing people put. I mean, keep in mind, Rwanda's the size of Wales, so these aren't too far apart anyway. But it's a mixed bag. You can go on tourist areas, but if you leave certain areas, you're going to be at significant risk. And that's the areas where we see the more deprivation and the more likely that those being sent there will end up. We also see significant human rights issues still going on. And even the Home Secretary admitted this just the other week, with restrictions on opposition, restrictions on, opposition party members being just picked up, detained, restrictions on freedom of speech. So there are significant issues still going on in that respect as well, which have an impact on this, because if you can't speak out, then you've got bigger problems. So it's a mixed bag. But overall, when you're looking at sending people who are already mostly very vulnerable and traumatized, you've got to make sure the country's a safe place for them to rebuild their lives. And that's just not the case in the areas we're talking about for those we'd be sending over there.
And of course, the reality of all of this is, and I do sort of have some sympathy for Rishi Sunak on this, regardless of what somebody's politics is. It's a democracy. He has a policy. You might disagree with it. Somebody else will agree with it. That's fine. But the reality is this ain't going to see the light of day, is it? Because the time frame required for all of the various pieces to fall into place just doesn't sit with a looming election. This is never going to happen.
I mean, I obviously hope it doesn't happen, but I find it really strange from the point of view of Rishi Sunak that he almost had an out. I mean, it's been widely reported that he didn't see this plan working from the outset when it was first put forward by Boris Johnson. And he had an out with the Supreme Court, but he's now doubled down on this in quite extreme ways. If you look at some of the wording of the bill and the way the treaty is going, that just seems guaranteed to drag it on and keep it in the headlines, keep it as a failure in the headlines like this. It makes no sense to me from a political point of view.
When you say, sorry, Dan, when you say he had an out, he could have said, look, sorry, the court has ruled, that's it, end of.
We're going to look at other alternatives. Okay. We're going to look at other policies. Let's see what we can do next. Right. But he did this rod to his own back.
Dan, listen, thank you for your time. It's always good to chat. Daniel Sahaj, who